In conclusion, there is no responsible solution to the disposal of nuclear waste. Deep underground repositories were essentially the best possible solution for the time for long-term storage and containment of dangerous nuclear waste. However, the use of salt domes and salt deposits pose their own geological inherent risks. So why was this route chosen? Because it was cheap. First, these natural salt domes perform well under vertical pressure. However, they do not hold up as well under horizontal pressures from external factors such as earthquakes. Second, given their somewhat fragile composition, the process of pumping highly pressurized water into these formations to create storage compartments further compromises their inherent geological integrity. Third, as we will see in this video, fracking is being done less than 1/2 mile from the elevator shafts that bring the highly contaminated nuclear waste to the underground storage facilities 2,100 feet below the surface of the ground at the WIPP facility. Fracking causes earthquakes. As we saw in the Bayou Corn sinkhole, which was also being used for deep underground nuclear waste storage, as well as repositories for other hazardous materials such as butane, natural gas, oil, one of the outer walls of the salt dome collapsed, breaching a natural barrier to a deep underground aquifer. And the man-made caverns storing these volatile materials started filling up with water. Out of sight to the average resident or traveler lies the Great Permian Basin, a vast deposit of potassium salt or potash that stretches throughout Lee and Eddy counties, covering hundreds of miles of southeastern New Mexico and stretching southeast into the Texas Panhandle. In this area, the WIPP Site, storing deadly transuranic waste, sits right in the middle of, and they are drilling and fracking throughout these salt deposits to extract natural gas lying within this basin. Well, as I mentioned before, these are the transport containers they use to move the contaminated waste from either landfill or nuclear plants, military DOD facilities, whatnot. You see how these containers are numbered? If I could get a little closer, I could show you that they actually have a warning on them that they're fissile material. And we've got two containers here, a 128 and a 144. Now, when my fiance and I were coming back from Fort Carson in Colorado, we passed two of these trucks carrying containers just like this. Two of them with duplicate container numbers. In other words, on truck one, there was, say for an example, I think it was container number 123. You saw container number 123 on one truck, and then a mile up the road, there was another truck with the same container number on it, 123. How does that happen? They're supposed to be tracking this stuff. It's supposed to be inventoried, and it should be auditable. Now, how do you inventory and audit something and quantify something when you've got duplicate transport container numbers on multiple trucks? So I just wanted to show you guys that. And let me see if I can get this one over here. Yeah, see that? 209, 126, 156. These should all have, in my opinion, separate and individual numbers or labels on these tanks. So you gotta wonder why there would be duplicate tank numbers on multiple trucks. heading I-25 south from Fort Carson. I'm wondering what this is. It's over here. Let me see if I can... Not too keen on getting out of the truck right now. I'm wondering if this is one of these air monitoring facilities for the ventilation system at the plant, because it just happens to be right across the street from the plant, from those tanks I just showed you. Right, as a matter of fact, I was on my way back looking for a place to pull over, and I turned around because I thought to myself, what is this place? But I'm not sure. I don't think I can zoom in much more. But that looks like, I don't know if that's a vent. Really strange shape to it. That looks like an air monitor on the side. Well, if anybody can tell me what this is, I'm sure we'd all love to know. But that looks like, I don't know if that's a vent. Really strange shape to it. That looks like an air monitor on the side. Well, if anybody can tell me what this is, I'm sure we'd all love to know. And I just wanted to show you this. This, as far as I can tell, is a natural gas fracking plant. Let me see if I can get this closer in. See those big tanks there? I believe those are water tanks. They contain fresh water used for fracking. And these facilities are all over the place down here. I'm on WIPP Road, which is 12 miles from what was it, 180, and all down this road you'll see these types of plants everywhere. They are fracking less than a half a mile from this WIPP site. Just thought that would be interesting. Let you guys know what's going on down here. This is the location on Google Earth of the Carlsbad, or I should say Loving, New Mexico WIPP site right here. This, I should mention, is only what you can see above ground. The WIPP storage facility is actually 16 square miles. So it's 4 miles by 4 miles in this area. Now I want to point out to you, and this is really important, all of these little squares that you see coming off the roads here, all of these are fracking wells. And let's see here. Here is one right near the facility. Let's see if I can get closer in here. It's a little grainy. But all around this facility is just dotted with natural gas fracking. We've got, look at this. This entire area is surrounded by fracking wells. Oh God, I wish I had my dash cam. See all those flames? As far as the eye can see, those are vents for all the fracking they're doing out here. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm about 70 miles from the WIPP plant, and these things are everywhere. I've been in New Mexico for almost 19 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Look at this. They are literally everywhere. According to energy.gov, they state that generally the waste materials being stored down at the WIPP facility include clothing, tools, rags, residue, debris, soil, and other items contaminated with radioactive elements. It goes on to explain that there are two categories of transuranic waste. Contact handled, which they're claiming is 96% of the materials stored at that facility, and non-contact handled, which consists, according to their numbers, only about 4% of the total volume of waste materials at the facility. I propose that these figures are somewhat skewed. I'm guessing that we'll come to find pretty soon that it's more like 96% of the materials contained down there are of the hazardous, more volatile transuranic waste, such as waste from nuclear power plants and radioactive waste from nuclear weapons. How do you explain the release of 4.4 million disintegrations per minute of plutonium from contact-handled rags, gloves, metal scraps, etc., from a waste containment facility that consists of 96% of contact-handled nuclear waste? No, I don't believe this. The numbers don't add up. It's probably more like that facility contains 96% of highly volatile fissile nuclear waste products and not the contact-handled materials that the DOE site is posting. I want to share with you a report on the numerous severe geological problems identified at the WIPP site. First, no geological investigation was held before WIPP was sited. Goes on to say, unfortunately, WIPP is located in one of the world's largest karstlands, as evidenced by Carlsbad Caverns, bottomless lakes appearing and disappearing rivers such as the Rio Negro near Lovington, sinkholes, and many other regional geological features. Here, streams of water run underground instead of above ground, dissolving the soft rock and old salt deposits as they flow, making the WIPP site an unsuitable location for permanent disposal of radioactive wastes. Independent Earth scientists believe that WIPP will contaminate the nearby Pecos River used for irrigation and drinking water in the arid lands of West Texas and New Mexico. As recently as 2009, the DOE said WIPP was not a good place to store high-level nuclear waste. So what's changed since then? Nothing, other than they do not have any other solutions for high-level nuclear disposal. As far back as 1983, when this site was still a project only on paper, a member of the National Academy of Scientists on WIPP warned, over a period of time, the brine could corrode the waste drums, forming a radioactive waste slurry, consisting of a mixture of brine and nuclear waste, which might eventually reach the surface. Not to mention the underground aquifers there, which is the only source of water for irrigation and ranching. Dr. David Snow, PhD of engineering at the California University of Berkeley, concludes that after opening the first research rooms, it showed that DOE will have to contend with a wet waste nuclear environment. Cracks have appeared in the ceilings and floors of several large waste storage rooms, and in 3 areas, the ceiling has also collapsed. The cracking and collapse are the result of a rate of room closure 2 to 3 times faster than was anticipated originally by the engineers. Remember what the spokesperson from Secretary Flynn told us? He assured us he was 99.9% sure that there had been no roof collapse at the WIPP facility. In June of 1990, a 100-ton section of the ceiling of a test room collapsed. Here's what the scientists and engineers tell us we are facing with the WIPP facility. At WIPP, brine will accumulate down dip, corrode the steel drums, and dissolve the radionuclides. Generated gas will collect up dip. Inclined fractures will interconnect the rooms and panels with fractured and hydrate beds farther above the repository, each of which will contribute to increasing inflows of brine and hence increasing corrosion and collapse of the storage rooms in that facility. They not only knew that this was a possibility, but that it was a foregone conclusion. And they went on with the project anyway. In a paper presented by Roger Yates Anderson, geologist at New Mexico Tech, on the potential for petroleum production for the section of land staked out by the AEC for the WIPP site, the state of New Mexico wanted to know the value of the land and the resources it might be giving up at WIPP. The tech geologists studied the stratigraphy and the history of production in the area and plotted the location of producing wells and dry holes in the region and concluded that the WIPP site lay at the intersection of two producing trends. He concluded that the place chosen for WIPP was a good prospect for future oil and gas production. So this is about the money. This isn't about safety. This isn't about the safe storage of transuranic waste. This isn't about protecting the land or the people or the air or the water. It's about money. It goes on to say that this was not good news for WIPP because one of the firm criteria for citing a nuclear waste repository was avoiding conflict with natural resources. Resources were valuable for one thing, but most important, exploration or exploitation of resources, such as potash or petroleum, might lead to a breach and release of waste, which we see happening right now. After the report by the tech geologist was released, the government contractor for the site exploration, who just happened to be from Sandia Labs, hired 2 petroleum consultants from Texas to repeat the tech study. Both consultants, surprisingly, concluded that the WIPP site was a poor oil and gas prospect. With 2 new reports in hand, the weight of evidence was then 2-1 in favor of little or no conflict with petroleum, and the WIPP project had a green light. It wasn't long, however, before oil derricks and gas fracking wells began sprouting up all around the WIPP site. In fact, this site is so dangerous and so hazardous that Sandia National Labs developed what they called an introduction to WIPP passive institutional controls. And I'll leave a link for this PowerPoint presentation in the description box below for you to read for yourself. And this report was produced February 27th, 2012. This site is under a 10,000-year lease by the government. How do you do that? Furthermore, this presentation states that there are to be monuments, granite monuments with multiple levels of messages engraved on the surfaces above and below ground. And I can tell you this, when I was out there, I did not see any 25-foot tall monuments in 2 pieces or any pieces in or around the perimeter of that site. In addition, this presentation by Sandia National Labs states regarding the monuments, they must contain 9-inch diameter subsurface and surface markers which read danger, poisonous radioactive waste here, do not dig or drill. Well, we can see how that's going. The radiological material contained in this site are so dangerous and for all intents and purposes eternal that an information room is to be constructed containing granite panels with extensive information and warnings regarding the site for generations in the future, 10,000 years and beyond. It was well known going into this project that geological failure of the WIPP site was guaranteed. We're only... Stop. A team of scientists from the Department of Energy recently backed a proposal of an idea that atomic waste buried deep underground might erupt in a nuclear explosion. We are witnessing a monumental cover-up that will down the road become the largest nuclear waste disaster in the U.S. A team of scientists from the Department of Energy recently backed proposal that of an idea that atomic waste buried deep underground might erupt in a nuclear explosion. We are witnessing a monumental cover-up that will down the road become the largest nuclear waste disaster in the U.S.